Hello, my name is Destiny Coburn, and I will be presenting how to brand yourself. Next slide, please. Okay, branding. So, what is a brand in particular? I mean, we see brands, we hear them, we buy into them, but what exactly is it? Next slide, please. So a brand is the way a company, individual, or organization intends to be perceived by the general public by using, as you know, specific symbols, slogans, colors, and they provide services and merchandise. And some people, they apply this to themselves. Next slide, please. So what does branding yourself means? We know that we can brand ideas and companies and we associate them, but how do you brand a person? Next slide. So it means just exactly that, associating yourself with certain services, merchandise, colors, and feelings to a target audience. So it may be kind of hard starting out going, well, how do I only speak to one demographic? But that's what the clause is. And we can think of tons of examples as to who might have branded themselves. Typically, celebrities, when you think of certain celebrities, um, they provide certain services, they provide entertainment, comedy, whatever it is. That is a part of their brand. Next slide, please. So, what your brand should be about. So, you're branding yourself, but what exactly can you contribute? What exactly can you give? Next slide, please. So, your brand can be about your interest, talents, ideas. Your goal should be to provide multiple services or sell multiple things. And it's best to start with one to three really core things because someone can brand themselves about just about anything. But for someone starting out, it would be best to focus on certain things. So, do you blog? Are you into sewing and selling clothes? So really go down and ask yourself, what is it that you would like to brand yourself on? Next slide, please. So here's a questionnaire to help you decide what you should brand yourself about. So what are your hobbies? Let's say you make a list of maybe 10 hobbies. You could say, well, I like skiing and I like cooking and I like cleaning and I like all the sorts of whatnot. Like my top three would be baking, writing, and filming. What hobbies would you like to have? So it's okay to brand yourself based off of things that you don't do yet because you have an interest. And if you have an interest, then someone out there in your target audience also has that interest. And who knows, maybe you could make a brand off of showing how you fail and succeed at learning how to do that hobby. How would you like to serve others? So there's tons of way of providing service. It doesn't just mean giving people food, giving people clothes, giving people water. It also means that you can provide entertainment. It means you can be an artist and what your service is to provoke the general public into creating change. Or you could sell makeup. It really doesn't matter. What service are you giving to another person? What is your primary mode of communication? So, I know personally, being online is very hard. So, I know that my primary mode of communication is in person. So, my brand would probably work better if I had people with me personally and I was interacting with them face to face. Of course, we're in a pandemic, so we can't necessarily do that. And I'll touch on that later, but ask yourself what your primary mode of communication is. Is your brand local? And this reaches back to what your general audience is. So, are you looking for kids in your area? Sometimes we know, like, say, if you wanted to sell crabs. So, you may not necessarily sell crabs in Montana. I mean, you may, but you know that in Maryland, people love their seafood, they love crabs. So, your general audience will be people in the DMV. So, and also as a brand starting out, it is very important to start off possibly locally, unless your business ventures specialize in reaching people across the world. It is very important to start with your local target audience. If you were given a microphone that the whole world could hear, what would you say in 10 seconds? And this question can constantly shift, but an opportunity like that involves you asking yourself, what are my personal values? What are my core values? What would I like other people to ponder and think about? And typically, whatever you say on that microphone will speak to what your brand's mission statement or goals are, what you wish to better in the world. Next slide, please. So now you have this whole list of ideas, and you know what your hobbies are, you know what you want to do, you know what you'd say, you know who you want to target, but you still have multiple interests. So now you have to narrow your options. They don't have to stay this way, but for now, you have to narrow your options and say, okay, what do I want to contribute to the general public? So consider your top 3 hobbies as your merchandise or service, and the ones you want to explore as additional choices. So you know what you're good at. I mean, and other people will be able to tell you what you're good at or what you're not good at. And so if you're not good at something, but you want to get good at it, you can make a brand out of that. Sally tries this. Sally tries braiding. Sally tries cooking. You see tons of YouTube channels and accounts based off of things of that nature. So don't ever tell yourself what you can't do. Your primary mode of communication, as I said before, can determine if it's an in-person or online business. And we know, again, with the pandemic, that isn't necessarily as obtainable being in person. But just so you can get that out there, what you want your brand to be, ask yourself that question, and it'll, again, determine what your initial target audience is. So if it's in person, you probably won't run into as many minors as you would online. Because again, I mean, younger people are more tech savvy. So know that your target audience online will probably be more tech savvy, younger, which will reference the way that you advertise and the way you show and communicate your brand. And again, what you say on the microphone will determine your mission statement or just an idea of what your mission statement may be. Next slide, please. So I kind of know what I want to do. That was a lot of information, Destiny. You keep talking really fast. That's a lot to handle. So now what? I have an idea, but what do I do about it? So you find tools that you need for your brand. So let's say of those 3, I say cooking, writing, and filming. I choose cooking. So what tools do I need for my brand? Well, I may need cooking supplies. I may need a kitchen. And I probably don't have to go out and buy more merchandise, but just ask myself, what do I need for this? And creating content / merchandise. So you can create content, you can show people things, you can provide things, but you can also provide physical merchandise. So if I want to sell cooking spoons, what do I need to do to obtain cooking spoons? Budget, how much your business will cost. It's great to have an idea, but you need to know how much it'll cost and if you can continue to support your brand. Next slide, please. So what tools? Next slide, please. So at the very basic, because we don't want to get overwhelmed, this isn't something that can happen overnight. I mean, it might, but don't put that sort of pressure on yourself. What tools do I need for my brand? First, you need a brand name. You need a nice, catchy name, simple and easy to remember for your brand. You need an email account. You need a social media account. You need a camera. And most importantly, you need consistency. So these things are important because you want to be able to completely detach your brand from yourself. Otherwise, things can get messy. You end up liking something that maybe you didn't want other people to see because now you have the same social media account as what you had before, and it gets messy. So what you want to do is create a separate account, separate email account, a brand on its own. And again, you're like, well, I already have my friends. I already have my target audience on my social media account. I'll have to rebuild all that all over again. And that's why you use your personal account to go ahead and promote your brand. So don't worry about trying to build an audience all over again. It'll happen. But for now, you need to separate it so that you don't overwhelm yourself and so that you have all your ducks in a row. Oh, and you also, of course, you need a camera because we're online. And if you're selling your brand to someone else, they need to see what your brand is. So if you're creating content and entertainment, of course, you're going to film yourself. If you like cooking or making clothes and selling it to people, people need to see your merchandise and things of that nature. But I have to say that out of all of these, consistency is the most important. Because if you only check on your brand, if you only work on your brand once a year, you're not going to build an audience that'll stay. You may get people to come, but they won't stay. So consistency is probably the most important tool when creating your brand. Next slide, please. So again, how much will all of this cost? Next slide. And this is a small slide because it really depends on what you're selling and what you're trying to serve. So set a budget starting out. It's okay to not have any money. It's okay to only be working off an allowance if you even have an allowance. The point is that you're trying to start. And if you have a real passion for it, the opportunities are going to come your way. Success is not necessarily paved through money. I mean, it definitely helps, but your willpower is what's going to get you through the door, and money is just going to support the sort of character that you already have. Next slide, please. So you ask yourself, well, what if I want to change it later on? I mean, you made these colors, you made these symbols, you created a name, but now you really don't want to sell this anymore. You don't want people to see you this way. You don't want other people, you don't want your target audience to see your brand this way. You want to expand it or you want to get rid of it, but you just want a different one. Next slide, please. So you rebrand yourself. It happens all the time. It's just a matter of how you rebrand yourself. Because the thing is, if your target audience already has Lulu's Lemons, oh, that's a real brand name. Let's make up another one. If your people already have Doug's Cookies, that's what they remember, Doug's Cookies. And now you want to make, I don't know, Sally's Brownies. They're not going to remember Sally's Brownies. They're going to remember Doug's Cookies. So you have to transition. I mean, there's many ways, and I've listed them here. So you introduce a second brand. So you use the brand you have now. You use Doug's Cookies to promote Sally's Brownies. Hey guys, if you like cookies, go check out these brownies. If you like these cookies, oh, I got my chocolate from Sally's Brownies. And now you're promoting that. So now you're sharing your audience with your new brand so that once you completely cut off the other brand, you're good. So that's what the transition phase is, or you just have two brands. Or the third one is that you announce that you're rebranding your company. Some companies do this. They announce, hey, this place bought out this place. In this case, is you buying out yourself. But hey, we're changing this to that. And a very important step is to promote why you're changing. Because sometimes people go, well, I mean, what's the point at this point? I already know this. I already know your Doug's Cookies. Why would you change? And maybe your mission statement changed. Like I said, what we say on the microphone may change depending on where we are in our lives. So if you want to change that, if you want to change what you're selling, if you want to change your service, then you announce that and you make sure that your target audience definitely knows that you are transitioning, that you are rebranding yourself, and show them why they should be on board with you rebranding yourself. That is very important. Thank you. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in or comment them. But thank you all for being here and for listening. So good luck branding yourself and starting new chapters.